Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vrajanaranjana Yashodanandana Vrajanaranjana Yamunatiravanachari Yamunatiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vrajanaranjana Yamunatiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajākacārya Ashtotara Sata Shishimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON BBT Samstapakacharya His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories, all glories, all glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naranchaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudhiraye Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. So this morning we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 18, titled Parīkṣit cursed by a brāhmaṇa boy, text 32. Tasya putro titejasvī viharan bālako rbhakaiḥ rājñāghaṁ prāpitam tātam śrutvā tatredam abravīt tasya putro titejasvī viharan bālako rbhakaiḥ rājñāghaṁ prāpitam tātam śrutvā tatredam abravīt tasya putro titejasvī viharan bālako rbhakaiḥ rājñāghaṁ prāpitam tātam śrutvā tatredam abravīt tasya putro titejasvī viharan bālako rbhakaiḥ rājñāghaṁ prāpitam tātam śrutvā tatredam abravīt tasya putro titejasvī viharan bālako rbhakaiḥ rājñāghaṁ prāpitam tātam śrutvā tatredam abravīt. Vaishnavis. Viharan bālako rbhakaiḥ rājñāghaṁ tatredam abravīt tatra putro titejasvī viharan bālako rbhakaiḥ rājñāghaṁ prāpitam tātam śrutvā tatredam abravīt tasya, his, the sages, putraḥ, son, ati, extremely, tejasvī, powerful, viharan, while playing, bālakaḥ, with boys, arbhakaiḥ, who were all childish, rājñā, by the king, agham, distress, prāpitam, made to have, tātam, the father, śrutvā, by hearing, tatra, then and there, idam, this, abravīt, spoke. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Translation. The sage had a son who was very powerful, being a brāhmaṇa's son. While he was playing with inexperienced boys, he heard of his father's distress, which was occasioned by the king. Then and there, the boy spoke as follows. Purport. Due to Mahārāja Parīkṣit's good government, even a boy of tender age who was playing with other inexperienced boys could become as powerful as a qualified brāhmaṇa. This boy was known as Shringi, and he achieved good training in brahmacharya by his father, so that he could be as powerful as a brāhmaṇa even at that age. But because the age of Kali was seeking an opportunity to spoil the cultural heritage of the four orders of life, the inexperienced boy gave a chance for the age of Kali to enter into the field of Vedic culture. Hatred of the lower orders of life began from this brāhmaṇa boy under the influence of Kali, and thus cultural life began to dwindle day after day. The first victim of Brahminical injustice was Mahārāja Parīkṣit, and thus the protection given by the king against the onslaught of Kali was slackened. Om Ajnānatimirandasya Gyanāñjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Caitanya Manobishtham Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha. Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Caitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha. Namaum Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Jayapataka Swaminiti Namine. Nama Acharya Padaya Nitakrapa Pradayine Gaurakatha Dhamadaya Nagragramatarine. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Gopi Paranadana Dase Iti Namine. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Vanchakalpattarubhyascha Kripa Sindubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Sri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yatkripatamaham bande Shri Guruduntarinam yatkripatamaham bande Paramanandamadavam Shri Caitanya Ishwaram. Katanchana smrite yasmin dushkaram sukaram bhavet vismrite viparitam syat Shri Caitanyam namamitam. So, here in this purport, Srila Prabhupada is making a very important statement which we have to carefully note. He's saying that hatred of the lower orders of life began from this Brahmana boy under the influence of Kali, and thus cultural life began to dwindle day after day. So this particular incident is very significant because the very idea of being a brāhmaṇa means one is a learned person. A learned person is called a brāhmaṇa. Now when a learned person worships Krishna, then he is considered as a Vaishnava. And if the learned person has an impersonal idea of the truth, he is considered as a brāhmaṇa. So Prabhupada explains this in the Bhagavad Gita, the difference between a brāhmaṇa and the Vaishnava. The Vaishnava is one who accepts the personal form of the Supreme Lord and worships the Supreme Lord and practices bhakti. Whereas the Brahmanas, even though they are learned, they accept the impersonal form of the Lord. I mean, they don't go beyond they are not Mayavadis. Mayavadis means to consider the Lord to be material, the Lord's form to be material. That's Mayavada. That's not a Brahmana. In fact, there's a difference between a Brahmavadi and a Mayavadi. The Brahmavadi does not think that that the Lord's form is material. Rather, they think that the ultimate feature is a Brahman, but they don't consider the Lord's form to be material. So that's the difference between a Brahmana and a Vaishnava. So both of them accept that the Lord's form is spiritual, but the Vaishnava understands that the Lord's form is the ultimate word in the absolute truth, and devotional service, bhakti, is the constitutional nature of the jiva. So here we see that there is a certain imbalance here which is leading to this problem here, which is that the basic qualification of a brahmana or a pandita is being breached here. What is that qualification? So that we find in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 5, text 18. All of you may know this verse, or most of you may know. Vidya vinaya sampanne brahmane gavihastini sunichaiva swapakecha panditah samadarshinaha. So the very idea of being a pandita means one is samadarshinaha. Samadarshana means equal vision. Now this is something which we need to understand, because on the one hand we speak about equal vision, on the other hand we speak about four orders of life. Like Prabhupada is speaking about cultural heritage of India or the Vedic culture. So that speaks about is Varnashram Dharma, is the cultural heritage. That speaks about four orders, and we say it, right, that the Brahmanas are higher than the Kshatriyas are higher than the Vaishyas are higher than the Shudras, and Shudras are above the Mlecchas and all that, outcasts. So on the one hand there is hierarchy, on the other hand we are talking about Pandita Samadarshinaha. So how do we reconcile these two visions? So how do we reconcile these two things? So let's read the purport to that verse, what Prabhupada writes. First of all, the translation. The humble sage, by virtue of true knowledge, sees with equal vision a learned and gentle brahmana, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog eater. Purport. A Krishna conscious person does not make any distinction between species or castes. The brahmana and the outcast may be different from the social point of view, or a dog and a cow and an elephant may be different from the point of view of species. But these differences of body are meaningless from the viewpoint of a learned transcendentalist. This is due to their relationship to the Supreme, for the Supreme Lord, by his plenary portion as Paramatma, is present in everyone's heart. Such an understanding of the Supreme is real knowledge. As far as bodies are concerned in different castes or different species of life, the Lord is equally kind to everyone. The Lord is equally kind to everyone because He treats every living being as a friend, yet maintains Himself as a Paramatma regardless of the circumstances of the living entities. The Lord as Paramatma is present both in the outcast and in the Brahmana, although the body of a Brahmana and that of an outcast are not the same. The bodies are material productions of different modes of material nature, but the soul and the super soul within the body are of the same spiritual quality. The similarity in the quality of the soul and the super soul, however, does not make them equal in quantity, for the individual soul is present only in that particular body, whereas the Paramatma is present in each and every body. A Krishna conscious person has full knowledge of this, and therefore he is truly learned and has equal vision. So, okay, I'll explain this. So, the similar characteristics of the soul and the super soul are that they are both conscious, eternal and blissful. But the difference is that the individual soul is conscious within the limited jurisdiction of the body, whereas the super soul is conscious of all bodies. The super soul is present in all bodies without distinction. So, the very basis of equal vision is from the fact, it stems from the fact that we are not the body. The very idea of equal vision stems from the fact that we are not the body. But the gradations of the varnashrama are purely based on the material body. So, based on the modes of nature, they are classified. We know that the mode of goodness is the highest. Therefore, the brahmanas are considered as the highest because they are the highest modes of material nature. But that is a gradation according to the modes of material nature. But when it says equal vision, it means that all spirit souls are equal. So it's like saying that someone is living in a big palace or someone is living in a run-down house. But the people who are living in that are both human beings. It is not that, so although one person may be living in a palace and one person may be living in a run-down house, but the people, both of them living there are human beings. They have equal rights as far as the country is concerned. Everybody provides them equal rights. So, and the Paramatma, more important than that also, is that the Paramatma is residing in each house. So, Paramatma is residing in the palace also. Paramatma is residing in the rundown house also. So, these distinctions are purely based on material body. When I say material body, it means both gross and subtle body. So, based on that, these distinctions are there. Now, so how do we conduct our affairs in this material world? So, here we see how we should not conduct. That's an example here. So, the moment someone in the higher order of life, or any order of life for that matter, thinks that I am better than someone else. The moment one thinks I am better, it can be better than anyone, doesn't matter. There is no such thing as I am better than anyone. This is a myth, because all spiritual souls are equal. So the moment someone thinks I am better than someone, that's a platform of fall down. That's exactly what is happening here. This Shringi is looking down upon Mahārāja Parīkṣit based on the fact that Mahārāja Parīkṣit is a king. So the moment Shringi thinks that he is better, finished. So that is not the vision of a Pandita. Pandita does not think that I am better. So as they say, pride comes before a fall. So inevitably all fall down, I mean not all fall downs, a lot of the fall downs are caused the moment one thinks one is better. That is the trap of Maya. I am better. So we should not consider in terms of I am better. Rather, okay, it is a fact that when we look at it, okay, a palace is definitely better than a rundown house, but the people living in that are more important than the house itself. So a Pandita always sees, or a Krishna conscious person always sees the spirit soul and the super soul. So therefore they cannot afford to think I'm better. Better than whom? It's an illusion. Better than whom? All spirit souls are equal, and the Supreme Lord is the father of all the living entities. So what does it even mean to say we are better? So at the same time, it is important for us to know that we have to get out of the entanglement of material nature. That's very important. So therefore, we are warned, be on the Brahmanical platform. Don't get into the modes of passion and ignorance. Don't get into those modes. How do you get into those modes? When you associate with people from that mode. That's what happens. Normally that's what happens. I mean, in fact, probably without exception, that's what happens. Or when we hear about them. So, when we associate with people from the lower modes, then we get entrapped into those modes. So therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that the first symptom of a Vaishnava is asat sanga tyaga. Asat sanga tyaga. So on the one hand, we are saying everybody is equal. So if everybody is equal, why we should reject someone? What is this asat sanga tyaga? So therefore, we have to be careful that everybody is equal does not mean that we deal with everyone in the same manner. We don't deal with everyone in the same manner. But we have to realize that we cannot claim we are better than someone in the mode of passion. No, we are not better. Because we are all the same spirit souls. But I don't want to get into a situation which will entangle me in Maya and make me forget Krishna. Because all souls are eternally, are by nature, eternally related to the Supreme Lord. They have an active relationship with the Supreme Lord. So the moment, which is currently now covered up. So the moment we think everybody is the same, therefore we can associate with everyone, then we'll get trapped into the modes of material nature. Then our bhakti gets affected. Therefore, it is not that the soul in that body is any less than us. The soul is equal. Everybody is equal. But those people are living, are inhabiting a body which is a block. So they have to overcome that block to advance in Krishna consciousness. So when we associate with people who are in the mode of passion and ignorance, our bhakti is going to get affected. So it's very important for us to understand this principle of asat sanga tyaga, at the same time maintain an equal vision. This is the real challenge while we lead the life of a devotee. Because Prabhupada, in fact the Bhagavatam itself, Prabhupada itself, over and over and over and again in his lectures, he speaks about the devotees and the karmis, right? And traditionally, or not historically, sometimes this has been used in our Krishna conscious movement to do exactly like what Shringi did, to look down upon people. That's happened because, as they say, power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely. And they also say knowledge is power. So when we get knowledge, and if you say this, what we're getting is not just knowledge, it's absolute knowledge. So an absolute knowledge can corrupt absolutely also. So the moment we read Bhagavatam, what do we understand? That the world is filled with, at least the current situation, the world is filled with two-legged animals. The Bhagavatam calls them dvipada pashus, dogs, hogs, camels and asses. Prabhupada writes in the Bhagavad Gita purport, Nama Dushkitano Muda, in that he says 99.9% of the people in this world are naradamas. So this is what we read. When we read Bhagavatam, this is what we get. Why is it there? Why is it there? It's there. Everything that is there is for two purposes. This we should remember. Any spiritual knowledge that we get from the pure devotees, from the Bhagavatam, from the pure devotees is for two purposes. One purpose is for us to save ourselves and advance in bhakti. The second purpose is for us to help others. So anything that the pure devotees speak is meant for these two purposes. So the Bhagavatam is speaking all these things so that we are careful. Once Prabhupada said that the only problem with my disciples is that they're not enough afraid of Maya. That's very dangerous because it's Krishna's energy. So if we cannot take it for granted. So the modes of nature are very strong. Like in recent times in India there have been floods, not here but in Assam and other parts. And so sometimes if you see some of these videos, huge vehicles, they just get pushed by the water. Huge force. So like that, even huge vehicles we are just very tiny spirit souls. And we're dealing with Krishna's material energy. There's no comparison. There's not even there's nothing to you can't even imagine to fight with her, Maya. It's not possible. So Maya can just push us over. But nevertheless, the process of bhakti is so powerful. Because of taking shelter of the process of bhakti, we are able to fight Maya. Otherwise we cannot. We simply get crushed by Maya. So we should remember this, that we are very insignificant. We can get completely crushed. So the purpose of giving us what reality is to make us aware. Look, this is what you're dealing with. Be careful. If you start associating with the non-devotees and start assimilating their values and all these different things, then you inevitably get crushed by Maya. So this is what it's trying to teach us. And at the same time, when we see this, true knowledge will produce that compassion. I have been saved. I have been saved. So we think like this. I have been saved. Look at the condition of the suffering humanity. Vaishnavas para dukkha dukhi. So you think, okay, let me go out and preach. Otherwise they're going to go, they're all heading towards hell. How many lifetimes that they have to go through suffering? That compassion is evoked in the heart. So therefore, all knowledge that we read, hear, whatever we hear in the classes, whatever we read in the books, everything is meant for two purposes. One is to make us turn towards Krishna. It is said that we should turn towards Krishna like the way Devaki was afraid of Kamsa. So Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur explains that because Devaki was afraid of Kamsa. That fear of Kamsa, because of the fear of Kamsa, her 7 children were killed. So it is by fearing Maya, fear of whom Kamsa is whom she is afraid of. So Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur says, by fearing Maya, our anarthas can get destroyed. Of course, fearing Maya alone is not enough, that we always know. By taking shelter of Krishna and fearing Maya, then our anarthas get destroyed. But if we do not fear Maya, then we are in trouble. Like Prabhupada once was in front of the deities and disciples walked up to him. One disciple walked up and asked, Srila Prabhupada, what did you pray? It's not the etiquette to go and ask the spiritual master, what did you pray? But Prabhupada, because he knew that there is an innocent question, he wanted to teach. So he said, I was praying to Krishna that I may not fall down. And this is Prabhupada. So even Prabhupada, this is the consciousness of a pure devotee. They tightly cling to the lotus feet of Krishna and they're afraid of Maya. That's the nature of a pure devotee. So this is one thing. So we need to be conscious of the world in which we are living. Sometimes we have gone to both extremes in our International Society for Krishna Consciousness. One extreme is we have knowledge. Okay, these are karmis. So we've misused that knowledge. As I say, power corrupts, knowledge is power. So we misuse that knowledge to look down upon people. So the other extreme is don't look at people as two-legged animals and all that. Both of them are extremes. Both of them this is rejected by the Bhagavatam. We cannot try to make a mental image or try to have a conception which is different from the Bhagavatam's conception. We are a philosophy, we are a tradition of as it is. We have to take reality as it is and deal with the reality as per the prescription of the Bhagavatam, which is that you we have to take shelter of Krishna, and we have to use that knowledge to preach, not use that knowledge to mistreat people or look down upon people. That's what is happening with Shringi. He's looking down upon people. So therefore, if you notice Srila Prabhupada, if you have read Prabhupada's instructions about Varnashram, Prabhupada is very careful to ensure that this mentality of I am better than others does not creep in. So he says, in our society, we will have Varnashrama, but it's called Daivi Varnashrama. It is on the platform of equal vision. Platform of equal vision does not mean everybody is doing the same activity. No. Those who are suited to do Brahminical activities, they will do. Those who are suited to do Kshatriya activity, they will do. Like that. But, Prabhupada says, but they cannot be called Brahmana Vaishnava. They cannot be called Kshatriya Vaishnava. They cannot be called Vaishya Vaishnava. They cannot be called Shudra Vaishnava. He very clearly says, no designations. It is simply that they are carrying out their activity which is most suited for them to remember Krishna. That's all. That's all. So therefore, he was very insistent on this point, that in our International Society for Krishna Consciousness, the Varnashrama that he conceived of, we don't look down upon anyone. We respect everyone, but everyone is doing their different roles. It's not that, so anyway, everybody has got different roles, so different people perform those roles, but no one can look down upon the other. This is very, very important. So this is the basis of the Varnashrama system that Srila Prabhupada gave us. And then we may wonder what is happening, where are we? There are so many discussions going on about this, but nothing will happen until we have a class of people who can demonstrate this principle of Pandita Samadarshanaha. Those are supposed to be the Brahmanas. So unless we have the Brahmanas in our society, it's not that there are no Brahmanas, but we have a predominance of these, of the Brahmanas, means those who actually see with equal vision. Why did Prabhupada succeed? Because of his Krishna consciousness, he saw everyone with equal vision. Therefore, man, woman, Indian, American, whatever, Caucasian, nobody, black, white, no one felt discriminated. Why? Because of the fact that Prabhupada was 100% Krishna conscious, and in his actual dealings, he gave different engagements to different people. He did not give the same engagements to everybody. He gave different engagements to different people, but nevertheless, because he was fixed in the platform of, he was a real Pandita, with Samadarshana, so nobody felt discriminated against. So we have the benchmark. Prabhupada himself is the benchmark. Then we may think, oh, he's a pure devotee. But that's an excuse, because Prabhupada said, why he said this thing that the son should be even better than the father. So Prabhupada does not take an excuse for saying, okay, he's a pure devotee, we are somewhere. He's a pure devotee, we are supposed to follow in his footsteps. Are we endeavoring in that direction? Are we supposed to, are we developing this vision of Pandita Samadarshana? If we are not developing, something is wrong with us. So as we progress, which means what? One of the symptoms of Pandita Samadarshana is fighting will stop. Fighting will stop. Because you can see here, this whole problem is introduced by Kali. And what is the method of introduction? The method of introduction by Kali is to think I'm better. That leads to all kinds of problems. So Kali Yuga is the age of quarrel. So in our Krishna consciousness movement, we should be very careful that we don't allow this mentality to enter. That is, I'm better than others. That's it. The moment that enters, finished. Then I need to have better privileges, I need to have this, why like this, why like, all kinds. I rendered so many years of service in the movement, therefore I need better facilities, I need this. The whole thing of I'm better is going to create a catastrophe. Therefore, Prabhupada said that your love for me will be shown by how much you can cooperate to keep this institution together after I'm gone. Because this requires, it forces us to come to the platform of Pandita Samadarshana, that we can't think I'm better. If you don't think I'm better, what is there to fight anyway? So the whole problem of fighting comes the moment we think I'm better. So we cut that at the root, and we see here how this whole thing began. So we should be, and it very clearly says Kali was waiting for an opportunity. And this is the typical symptom of Kali Yuga. In India, there is a whole movement now, and that who oppose anything which speaks about castes and things, because it has been so badly misused that there's a strong opposition to even you cannot even utter the word Shudra anymore. You can only say working class, at best. So because of why? We've come to a situation because the very word means something now. Very word is indicating discrimination now. It has gone to that extent. So, and so that's natural, because that's how Kali progresses. So, we have to be conscious of this. We should set an example to society. Like Prabhupada said, this is the United Nations of the spiritual world. What to speak about, what to speak about within India, but this is the international movement. We can show to the whole world that we can live together peacefully in the service of God. So this is what we are supposed to set. And this is, like Prabhupada said, I didn't like to be like a mouse, like I always think big. So his visions were always very big. How to conquer the whole world with Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada always thought big, not just, okay, I'll just chant Hare Krishna and I'll preach to a few people. That he could have anyway done in India. No, he wanted to transform the whole world. He wanted to transform the whole world, and we are all parts of this. We're all parts of this. This is the extended Sankirtan movement of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. So we should be thinking, how shall I improve? How shall I improve? The more we think about how shall I improve, the more we'll desire to also improve others. Not just, okay, I'll just chant Hare Krishna, I'll chant 16 rounds, follow the 4 regulated principles. Prabhupada said, if you chant 16 rounds, follow the 4 regulated principles, you're going back to Godhead. That's it. Be happy. Let me go on a vacation and chant Hare Krishna. But that's not our process. Our process is that, first of all, Prabhupada says, chant offenselessly. And this is a missionary movement. It's a missionary movement. We are part of a missionary movement. We are not part of a movement which is all, teaching people, okay, just be at home and just chant Hare Krishna and go back to God. We are part of a missionary movement. So we need to have that missionary spirit. And if that missionary spirit has to come, then we have to read Bhagavatam. Only then we see, oh, look at the conditioned souls in this material world. They're all suffering so much. Let me go out and give Krishna consciousness. So, unless Kali is really infiltrated and is just taking over the whole planet, it has taken over in fact. So if you are a push against the force of Kali, we need to seriously cultivate Krishna consciousness. So we come to this platform of Pandita, Samadarshana. And why are people going to be attracted to our movement if we ourselves cannot demonstrate it? If we are fighting like everybody else, then why would people be attracted to our Krishna consciousness movement? We should be able to show the superior standard that this is what Krishna consciousness is about. You simply love Krishna, and when you love Krishna, you love everyone, and when you love everyone, you think I am the servant. That is why we say Prabhu means master. We are the servant. We should be able to live that philosophy. In fact, recently one senior devotee, it was very interesting. He said, sometimes in ISKCON, we think philosophy is for preaching, life is for living. So he said, no, life is for philosophy is for living, and life is for preaching. So if these two things we understand, then we understood Prabhupada's mood accurately. Philosophy is for living, life is for preaching. If in these two things we do, these are the two things everywhere whenever we read Prabhupada's books, this is we have to remember. This philosophy is for us to live, and our life is to preach. That's it. So that is the sum and substance of life in Krishna consciousness. If this we can do, then we are surely going back to God. In the sense, of course, we have to chant offenselessly. When we say philosophy is for living, the philosophy is chant 16 rounds offenselessly. That Prabhupada repeatedly says it over and over again. Okay, so it's 8:45 and our Padmapad Prabhu is sitting right in front of me. So I have to stop at 8:45. And if there are any comments or questions. Yes, Prabhuji. Yes, Oji.
Dandavad Pranam, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, my question is Varnashrama Dharma is necessary for human life or option?
What?
Varnashrama Dharma. Is it necessary?
It is not necessary. Okay, so it's like this. Prabhupada, when he started the Krishna consciousness movement, he said we don't have to follow Varnashrama. But bhakti and sinful life do not go together. Bhakti and sinful life do not go together. So for the first several years, Prabhupada emphasized on just the practice of bhakti alone is enough. But when he saw that the disciples were falling down, Prabhupada said Vaishnava means one who does not fall down. That's a very definition of a Vaishnava. So falling down, so sinful activities and bhakti do not go together. So therefore, Prabhupada provided Varnashram, at least because you have a certain material nature, you're not able to transcend it, that's why you're falling down, right? So at least if you means I'm saying. So if we follow our nature, engage Krishna consciousness accordingly, at least we will not fall down into sinful activity. Therefore, Prabhupada said that we need to establish Varnashram. Not that it's necessary to attain love of Godhead, no. It is necessary for us to, it is good for us to progress smoothly, that's all.
That's okay, Prabhu, but in the Bhagavad Gita, some brief knowledge about the Varnashram Dharma.
Yeah.
And in the Uddhava Gita, much more they gave the information.
Okay.
Regarding the Varnashram Dharma.
Correct.
But suppose in case if everybody, most of the things what I am observing is ISKCON, so many people they are disinterested towards marriage.
Towards marriage.
Towards marriage. And
okay.
Then how the creation will, suppose if everybody in the same line, how the creation will take place in future?
No, we don't have to be worried about it. Once Prabhupada has asked this question, that, he said this. He said, I want all my brahmacharis to remain brahmacharis and I want all my women to get married. And then the leaders, they asked him, Prabhupada, how is that possible? So Prabhupada simply laughs and says, that is your management. He says, the reality is, it's not possible for people to, all men to remain brahmacharis. That's only few people will be. But Prabhupada is just trying to create that push so that we get as many number of brahmacharis as possible. So because brahmachari means what? Full time. You just don't have any other engagement. That's it. So you have someone like to work for Krishna 24 hours. So anyway, the point is you don't have to worry about it. That's not going to happen because that's the very nature of this material world. That people are not all going to give up marriage and practice Krishna consciousness. That's not going to happen.
Small, of course, I am adding a small one point. Actually, but what I am observing, most of the highly intellectual people, they are very strictly observing this system, Prabhu.
They are?
So most of the highly intellectual people,
yeah.
Once for all, they are not at all particular about Varnashrama Dharma.
See, again, anyway, this is a very broad discussion. I don't know if this is the right time to talk about it. But anyway, in brief, different people have different ideas. So everybody should sit together and read Prabhupada's this thing. And then the leaders are also already discussing about it. It will take some time. That's it. That's all I can say right now. Because it's not an easy topic. Because the Samadarshana, the orders of life, it requires some advancement. People who are formulating it should be advanced. People who are trying to implement it should be advanced. There's a lot of things involved. It will take some time. But it will happen. Since it's the desire of a pure devotee, even if you find things are very confusing at this moment, but there'll always be serious followers who will come and do it. We don't know when, but it will happen. This is the desire of the pure devotee. It will happen.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you.
Thank you. After that, one Prabhu, one Mataji. Mataji has a question. Okay, please go.
Prabhu, Parīkṣit Maharaj was a Vaishnava.
Yes.
And Shringi was a Brahmana.
Brahmana, yes.
So when Shringi did that, whatever, so we are seeing that very critically. But even Parīkṣit Maharaj as a Vaishnava, we expected him also to act in a certain manner. So one way you are saying very critically, and others say you are saying that it's
okay. So that I think every day in the class, every speaker has been bringing this up. What is happening here cannot be considered as standard. Here, Parīkṣit Maharaj is behaving like an ordinary king by the will of Krishna. Just like Arjuna behaved like an ordinary Kshatriya. He is a pure devotee, but he behaved like an ordinary Kshatriya because Krishna made him behave like that for the sake of instructions. So here, this is not normal Parīkṣit Maharaj. That's what Prabhupada also explains in so many purports. This is not normal. This is the pastime of the Lord. But here, so what is the pastime? Parīkṣit Maharaj is acting like an ordinary king. Ordinary means, of course, he is extraordinary, but not as a Vaishnava king. He is just behaving like how normal. That's why Prabhupada also says, no, someone like a pure devotee cannot be affected by hunger and thirst. How is it that he felt hungry or thirsty? It's not possible. They can, not that they don't feel, but they don't get affected by it. So that Krishna put him in that situation so that Bhagavatam could be spoken. So that's the plan of the Lord. Like Bhagavad Gita, Krishna put Arjuna in that situation so that Bhagavad Gita could be spoken. Yes, you wanted to say something? Oh, sorry, I thought you wanted. Okay. Yeah, Mataji, Sridevi Mataji wants to say. I'll just come back to you.
Thank you, Prabhu, for a really wonderful class. You have stressed such a wonderful point when you said that if we keep fighting and we don't cooperate with one another, how will people get attracted to our movement? And how will we be able to make a difference in this world? So I was meditating on those words that you spoke and how this I am better mentality can ruin everything. Rather than that, to come to the position that I am nothing but a servant and to be humble is actually the key. Trinadapi sunichina tarorivasa. So thank you very much for reminding us of this heart of bhakti is humility. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, thank you. He also, okay, can come back to him. Okay.
Hare Krishna, I just wanted to mention that sometimes it's not clear who's a grihasta, who's a grihasta, who's a vanaprastha, and who's a brahmachari, because the way the economic structure is right now, it's like sometimes single people are in a mood of grihasta. So it's like, I think in somehow the social structure would need to be organized on a governmental level so that it's quite clear who's who, and the government take charge of taking care of those varnas and ashrams who are more dedicated to the service of the Lord, because otherwise it'd be very difficult to organize.
Yeah, see, the key to everything is education, because even if you get people in that organized, they'll not understand because they don't have that education. So we need to start with education. So if people are trained right from the beginning, children are trained right from the beginning, because we cannot just out of the blue introduce some system of organizing things, because people are not even educated. How are they going to understand what it means? So education is the key. So we really need to educate the younger generation, the kids. Slowly when they grow up, they have a vision. That's why education is the key. Even in Vedic society, Gurukul was so important, because Gurukul, you saw Krishna, and when he would go, even though he's the son of a king, still he would mix with other boys who are not from the same background, but everybody had to do the same task. There is no such thing as no special privileges in the Gurukul. Everybody is same there. He had to carry firewood just like any other boy. So that equal vision training comes from the childhood itself. And unless they're trained like that, Varnashrama will not work. Because always this thing about differentiation will come. I'm better, I'm this, I'm that. So unless they perform the same activities, they will not be able to see that we are all equal. They'll say, no, I'm more privileged. That whole thing will... Therefore, education is very, very important. In fact, it's mentioned here that the Parīkṣit Maharaj gave that facility in that kingdom, that people could be educated properly, nicely. And that's why he was so powerful also. But he misused it. That's right. Okay. Thank you. Yes, Vijay.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. You mentioned that absolute truth can corrupt somebody absolutely. So my point is there is jnanam and there is vijnanam.
Yes, sir.
So then when you have realization of absolute truth, It is perfect in all ways. Absolute truth is Krishna himself.
Correct.
So how can absolute truth corrupt somebody?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for bringing up. It's my fault. I did not clarify what I meant. Anyway, it is just like a phrase, so I just used it like that. So it means that absolute truth means just knowledge, not vijnana. Correct. You're right. That is just, if people just read the books, the absolute truth is there, but they're not realized it. So they use that knowledge to, they misuse that knowledge. That's what I meant. I'm sorry. Thank you for the correction.
No problem. Thank you for. Just following up on Mataji's comments, like, you know, there is so much of quarrel, and if we quarrel among themselves, how can we be a good example for others as devotees?
Okay.
I need an honest answer. Like you were saying, the Kali has infiltrated the whole world actually.
Yes.
Has Kali infiltrated our institution as well, and what can we do to kick Kali out of our institution?
Oh, very much. I don't think anybody would have a problem with that. That definitely it's infiltrated our institution also. So whatever fightings and difficulties that we find in our institution is simply because of that. So we need devotees to transcend that. How will the devotees transcend that? Fortunately, in our movement, it's not that everywhere and everybody is like that. There are several great souls, several ideal people. So it is the ideal people who can influence those who are not so ideal to raise their bar and come up to the real standard. Otherwise, this movement would already collapsed. It is because of people who are, there are great souls and there are people who are exemplary. Therefore, the movement has been together because of the force of their purity and advancement. So the more the numbers grow, the more the Kali will be pushed out of the movement. Thank you. Okay, a few more minutes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Prabhuji, sometimes, at least in my individual case, sometimes I come to a conclusion while reading Prabhupada books, and later it turns out that that's a partial understanding.
Okay.
When I listen to senior devotees. So how do I get out of this?
Partial understanding.
Yes.
Give me an example of a partial understanding which is incorrect or which is unfavorable or whatever. How is it causing some problem?
But it's not unfavorable, but it's like understanding it as sammam bonam. Example, like Prabhupada says, if one just chants Hare Krishna and takes prasad,
Yeah.
his life is perfect.
Yeah.
And I get into bewilderment. There are also other instructions. How do I look at the whole entirety then?
Yeah, so Prabhupada, see, each of the process of bhakti is fully potent. Fully potent. You know, so when one honors Mahaprasadam and thinks that this is the Lord, honors, one can get perfection immediately. That's why our process of bhakti, we don't even talk about one lifetime. That's why Prabhupada speaks about Katvanga Muni. You can attain perfection even within this, not at the end of the life also. But whether everybody is attaining, that's a different story altogether. But that's because of practice. But in principle, or in reality, you can attain perfection even in a moment. So when Prabhupada says just chant, and by having prasadam, yes, somebody can do it. But that's not normally the case. You know, so you have, so Prabhupada has created a package. So do all these things and do it in this proportion, you attend Mangalarati, do this. So he's given a certain proportion, and then you fill the remaining part of your day with other activities of service. So we have to see that there's this whole general prescription for everyone. So we should follow. There could be exceptions. Somebody could just attend Rath Yatra and just accept the Supreme Lord as, yes, this is the Supreme Lord. I mean, that much faith, just realize immediately. That's possible. Like Katvanga Muni, within a second he became perfect. That's possible, but those are exceptions. But the process of bhakti has that potency. Just by honoring prasadam, you can attain perfection. Okay, so I think we'll stop here.